Is it coming up, Claudia, on the phone?
Are you live already?
Yeah.
Yes. There's like a short delay.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
There it is.
So we can hear you.
Yes.
All right, cool, let's go.
Can I sit right here, George? Yeah, you want to sit?
I'd like to sit here. Can I sit here? No, come in so you're in the frame.
Sure. All right.
Yeah. Just tell Derek to put it on.
Oh, we're good. Hey, so if you're gonna broadcast live, should we be wearing a mask so that they don't?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, are we gonna,
We can hear Karen?
We just
Is
have
it
to
gonna
speak
Go
up
muffled.
is it gonna be muffled?
a little bit, but if we can project our voice,
All right. We'll just have to talk loud and proud.
yeah.
Kind of defeats the purpose. They already saw us without masks. Not that we were doing anything illegal.
Dang it.
So we're not on live?
We're not?
Says no? Says turn on, but it's not turned on. Or is that me?
No, turn on comment.
Um,
Yeah, it says we're live.
okay.
Oh, cool.
All right.
What's that?
Melinda's watching. She knows where we're at.
Good, she was invited.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Three, two. All right, hey, welcome to Fatherhood Talks. This is Guillermo, your host, and welcome. Thank you for tuning into our podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a very important subject about dads and also moms that they've been dealing with since forever. I would definitely like to talk something about that I recently found out about something called in the Texas Penal Code 2503. So I have a very, very awesome, very important crew here. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Claudia.
Gabriel.
George Saldani.
Derek.
All right. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about 2503, wherever we want to start, because it's got a lot to talk about, and I want to, introduce the society to what 2503 is.
Sure. You want me to get started?
Go ahead.
So this is Derek. Hi everyone. 2503 started a few years ago out of necessity. Parents, fathers and mothers alike, were being denied access to their visitation and their custodialship. So it came out of necessity, and a bunch of like-minded individuals and parents struggling with access issues. We kind of banded together, and George, our founder, started off small, and then within the first year we grew, and we realized there was a need in the community for a group, for an organization, for moms and dads to come to talk, to vent, to discover the process. And Texas Penal Code 2503 is interference with child custody is just that. It's a criminal state jail felony to retain the child during the possessionary time from the opposing party, so from the opposing parent. So, George?
So I decided to create this basically on someone's word that it was a state jail felony. I was going through this problem, and a friend on Facebook said, "Hey, did you know it's a state jail felony?" And at that point, I started digging into it. And when I dug into it, I clearly read it was a state jail felony. So me trying to talk to police officers, it was conflicting. Police officers would tell you it's a civil issue, and I would still say that 99% of the police officers out there now will still say that it's a civil issue. From that point, I wanted clarification. So I went to my state representatives and my state senators here in San Antonio to find out you know, could they clarify this law for me? Was it a civil issue or a state jail felony, as the statute says? At that time, I request a hearing, well, not a hearing, but a meeting with the legislator that actually wrote the law in 2011. Well, not wrote the law, but he amended the law in 2011. This law has been on the books for 47 years. 48 now that we're rolling in to a new year. So it's been on the books that long. And for that period of time, law enforcement's been trained just to send it back over into the civil courts and let the civil courts handle it. So talking to the legislator, every few years it would get legislated and something new would be added to the law. So I knew that the law was changing, but nobody was still enforcing it. So I wanted to just hear from the horse's mouth, you know, I wanted confirmation from the horse's mouth, you know, is what's going on here. So we had a meeting with the Texas District and County Attorneys Association at the Capitol with 6 DAs, the governor's office, the attorney general's office.
So this wasn't just a one-person conversation, this was actually...
No, this meeting at the Capitol was only scheduled for 15 to 20, 25 max. The meeting ended up being about 50 people within this meeting. 5 of our guys, me plus 4 others that I wasn't very well versed in it. So I was bringing other guys who had been doing research for a while in on the meeting with me. We all concluded that it was a state jail felony. That's where we made a team. We made a pact. From there, we said we're gonna move forward with this, and we're gonna hold shoulder to shoulder, arm to arm, and we're gonna press forward, and we're not gonna let them bully us around. So after this meeting, the turnout was great. We got a lot of great feedback. There was some opposition, but it was clarified that it's a state jail felony. We had to dumb it down a little bit to, I don't want to say that our legislators are not there, that they're just mentally not there. What I'm saying is we had to dumb it down to get the attention of everybody. Not everybody could I guess, grasp the concept from a civilian that didn't go through law school, that isn't in, you know, the legislator or
An attorney.
or an attorney. I'm just, you know, George, the citizen, constituent. And so all of us putting our minds together and what the law says, we just basically said we're constituents of the state of Texas. We're constituents of your, you know, area, whether in San Antonio or whatever. We had parents from all over. You know, the 5 parents that came with me were from Austin, Travis, Williamson County, and one from, I guess it would be Montgomery County.
Okay.
And so we were constituents of the state of Texas. The laws apply to us just like they apply to everyone else.
Right.
And so we told them, you know, this is just basically, you know, you can't enforce one law and you can't just exclude this law. The legislators are the ones who put the laws together, and you are supposed to enforce those laws. You don't get to pick and choose which laws to enforce.
Or which population to enforce them to with.
Right.
You have to enforce them with the whole population. So you said something interesting. So I just want to be clear, because I pulled up 2503 because I've never heard of 2503. So according to your research in that meeting, 2503 is not a violation of civil law. It is a violation of criminal law. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes and no. So it is civil, but it is criminal. And the best example I like to use is O.J. Simpson. If everybody remembers the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yes, yes.
Okay? He went to trial for murder, you know, on the criminal side, but they also got him on the civil side.
They did, yes.
So they released him on the criminal side saying he didn't commit murder, but then he also was found guilty on the civil side,
Right.
and had to pay the Goldman family. So it's like that. So when we're fighting to see our children, right now we're being shuffled only in one direction, to civil court.
Right, that is true.
And right now, with COVID and everything going on, these civil courts are backed up. So
Right.
not only can we not petition our courts, but they're so backed up, we don't know when we're gonna have a court date available for this. So all this time, we have a parent that's breaking the law. So we teach members, we educate them, and we're not giving legal advice because it's straight from the book. And it's how to file a criminal complaint, which we're all entitled to.
Right.
So we give them two avenues instead of just the civil avenue. We give them the criminal and the civil. Now we have both all said in our group, and we're all together on this. We are not here to make parents felons. We're not here to make parents criminals, to rip custody away. This isn't a custody issue. This is about following a court order and a judgment, just so we can have, so the child can have, both parents as the judge has already deemed in their best interest.
To enforce and maintain that relationship.
Right.
with those
So
parents.
the judge has already made a ruling with this court order stating, you see mom on these days and you see dad on these days. That's what we think is in the best interest of you. The judge has already signed off giving you your order. So when police don't enforce these orders, that's not in the best interest of the child. Right? What we see a lot is allegations. We see, oh, well, he was in prison, or he's doing drugs, or I saw him drinking.
He's behind on child support.
He's
behind-
this,
Yes.
and right. But what the police don't understand is that there's due process. Everybody's entitled to due process. So these allegations, I can make allegations against my ex, but that's not what we're trying to do. We have a law, we have our rights, that all say that you can see our children on these certain days. So when judges don't enforce it, police don't enforce it, and then there's no way to petition your issues within the judicial system, that's a failure to the children.
If I could touch on that.
Go ahead.
If I could touch on that.
Please.
So, excuse me, moms and dads often spend a small fortune in court, in civil litigation, sometimes years. They exhaust all resources,
Yes.
financially, physically, emotionally, they're taxed, right? The last thing they want to hear, they have these really great, expensive court orders deemed in best interest of the child by the judge, but when they go to apply them and exercise their possessionary time and go pick up their child, they're told to go back to civil litigation. That's the last thing that any parent wants to hear, especially somebody that has exhausted all resources. There is no financial solution. Quite often these parents are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet and pay their child support.
Yes.
And it's this endless cycle. It's this generating revenue and perpetual, just endless cycle that they get caught up in. That's why groups like this are necessary, because we found it that the vast majority are having access issues. What good are these really expensive court orders that I just got out of civil litigation for the past 5 years if nobody's willing to enforce them?
That makes sense.
The only people willing to enforce are the child support agency and the parent that's losing their rights. Right? The child obviously can't file on his own. That parent is not going to file an enforcement on themselves. And so the contract becomes the non-custodial parent versus the child support agency. Because nobody upholds the orders on the access and visitation, but they'll come and get you for the child support. Now back to what Derek was saying about these parents having to go back to work. Now I'm not saying this is the mentality of all non-custodials, but some non-custodials are okay with the set schedule that they have. They already have a first, third, and fifth. Maybe they live out of town and that works for them. So when they file this enforcement, right, now they're having to pay extra money for this enforcement, right? And then a modification comes. They get sucked in.
Yes.
A modification comes, and then child support comes,
Right.
and then all these other things come. So now that parent is working double or extra
Right.
trying to pay this attorney. So then the child support agency says, oh, you're working 2 jobs, you're making more money, we're gonna tax you more money.
Right. Right.
So it's a cycle that just keeps taking and taking and taking, and you're like this in the water trying to stay afloat,
Never get ahead.
and you end up sinking, you give up, and then the children lose their parent.
Even if you have a working relationship and you're successfully co-parenting with the other parent, the state will automatically review your case. I think it's every 3 years now that the
Right,
state of
right.
Texas can just call you, come on down, here's your date, and bring all your W-2s and your latest pay stub, and we want to see how much you're making now. So right when you think you're getting ahead and you're making some leeway and a little bit of breathing room, and a lot of these parents are living paycheck to paycheck,
Right.
the state calls you back in for another review. Oh, you're making more. That 30%. Let's take 30% of the new increase. Let's see where you're at. And it's by design. It's all by design. It's meant to keep you in this constant state of having to fight for your rights, having to fight for your children's rights, right? Just to be able to see them.
I've noticed that pattern of getting stuck and even sucked in, where you become stuck, where now my actual parenting experience is about paying the child support, is about making sure I pay the fees, making sure I do this. And while all that is going on, like you said, that you're paying, it just seems my time spent with my child becomes less and more of an obstacle
Sure. Absolutely.
to actually be successful in having and maintaining that relationship.
Absolutely. What's the quality of that relationship? Right. Exactly.
So you have to think, I started with just an enforcement. Now I'm in the middle of a modification to turn custody over, a protective order, and now this has exceeded 2.5 years. So what started as simple asking the judge, hey, I'm presumed fit when they gave me these orders saying you can see your child on these days.
Right.
I've already been given that, not that I agree with it, but still I was given those days on a court order, the same court order that talks about child support, signed by the same judge, and then now they're coming back and they're saying, well, let's review it. What are these allegations you hear? I didn't have a car seat. I didn't have
Baby gate.
a baby gate,
Yeah.
right? I had to go buy a car seat. I already had a car seat, but they wanted one to fit. So I was presumed fit, but then now they're questioning my fitness.
Right.
Why do I have to show? Every parent doesn't have to submit a picture to the court showing their car seat.
Right.
Not every parent. I know parents that have 2, 3-story homes with children in it, and not everyone is required to have a baby gate.
Right.
But I was required, and that's what happens is these parents get sucked in to this typhoon in the legal arena, when all they did was ask the judge, "I want to see my child because you said I could see my child on these days, and it's not happening." And it should be clear cut. It's real easy. Was he turned over for Christmas this year? Yes or no? But it's not. They just pull you in, and to me, again, the access and possession and child support we know are 2 different issues,
Right.
but they're all on the same court order. So if you're gonna give, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Avenue.
not an avenue, but if you're gonna give precedent to child support, you should do.
Oh, sure.
If you're gonna work
Takes
just as hard,
priority, yeah.
if you're gonna take as much priority in child support, the state should do the same thing with the children.
Right.
And we know through our research that the federal government has given the state of Texas grant money for the research of fathers.
Yes.
You have fathers.gov, with fatherhood.gov,
Right.
that's a federal entity, or an organization that encourages fathers to be active. right? And so all this money
Yeah.
comes in to the state gives it to the parent and child research.
Well, the programs themselves are reactive. There's nothing preventative about it. It's reactive by design. And the statistics all stack up against it.
Right. So, adding to what you're saying, because I'm sitting here looking at your flyer of information here, and one thing that caught my eye was, it says stop child abuse with a child in the front. So when I see stop child abuse in my career working in nonprofit is stop child abuse, commonly known as sexual abuse, physical abuse, social abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse. But right under here where it says stop child abuse, you have something very, very interesting. It says parental alienation. Can you connect child abuse with parent alienation? How would I be able to understand that better?
So we'll let Claudia take that one because
Okay,
she's well
Claudia.
versed. But before we go into that, I just want to say that the state looks at child abuse as mostly, for the most part, physical and sexual.
That's correct.
Mental and emotional,
They're not recognized.
even though it's in our statute for
Right.
emotional, mental. Oh, it's very hard to prove that, and we
Right.
don't. So maybe the legislator should go in and clean that up.
Right.
And that's where the PA organizations, the parental alienations organizations come in to try to change legislation because the state needs to stop just on sexual and physical. Our children's minds, emotional and mental, especially now, everybody's on this mental awareness kick.
Correct.
That these children, right? So Claudia will go into PA and she'll explain all that to you.
Well, the parental alienation comes into play, and it has a lot to do with the interference with child custody. So if you're retaining the child, if you're withholding the child, then the child is not gaining access or receiving the love from both parents. Therefore, it's like cutting one parent out. So how do you cut a parent out of your life if that's how you were basically created? So that itself, it takes on an emotional toll of the child. It kind of alters their perception that, one wants to be a part of my life, but I can't see the other. So am I being rejected? Am I, what's going on? They actually just start questioning a lot, and they start having behavior changes. They may not look at that parent realizing that parent is trying to see them, but they may be being told that they don't care for you. They're not asking for you. They never want to know what's going on. When in fact, that parent is trying their hardest to see you, but they're being denied. They're being denied because order is not being enforced, or the other parent just won't comply with something that you have already agreed on, that's already been signed and filed by the court. So that's what parental alienation, it usually starts with the retainment. And it happens to a lot of kids. It impacts like 22 million parents, internationally, not just here in Texas, but around the world.
So,
Major issue.
parental alienation, from what you're telling me, is when the child has already established by the court, by the judge, signed by the judge, this child has the right to access this parent and this parent, both parents. So it's when one parent, for whatever reason, decides, I'm going to withhold my child from making that communication, from seeing that other parent, from going out with that parent for the day.
From receiving the love from that other parent.
Okay.
Because, the example that I have is like if you're in the wilderness, if there's a threat to an animal, who is it going to stay close to?
Mom, the mother.
Or a parent.
Parent, yes.
So it's like the same thing. It's like if it's just natural to receive love from both parents. What child rejects your parent for no
Correct.
reason? So, parental alienation, it goes far more into a scientific study of it,
Okay.
but in general, parental alienation is that withholding of the child that means that they're starting to have these behaviors or these actions because they're not receiving that love. They're being denied that. And this is something that's why this is so important, is because this is in the best interest of the child for them to receive both parents' love and to have that access. And for that to be withheld, that's impacting.
there's a huge contradiction. There's parental rights and there's children's rights, and the Children's Bill of Rights, they're recognized at a worldwide level. The UN had their Children's Bill of Rights, and the U.S. has religiously gone against signing. And there's some stipulations and some additional reasons why, but in the States, we've been focusing hard on the Children's Bill of Rights and trying to get at some level, some standardization for children here in the United States. Texas has a Children's Bill of Rights, but it's more of a guideline and it's practical. Now, every child has the right to receive the love of both parents. The children's rights go on, and there's a standard 12, and then there's several other, and a lot of times they'll put the Texas Children's Bill of Rights and they'll embed it into your civil litigation, into your orders. And a loving and caring order is another one. So children's rights are a little different than parental rights, and the interference with child custody is a direct contradiction to the Children's Bill of Rights. Their access to both parents. So now we're starting to get into different avenues. And then when you have access issues and mom and dad cannot get to their child, a loving, able-bodied parent cannot get to that child as a court's already deemed necessary, you're not only going against the court order from that judge, but you're impacting the Children's Bill of Rights, which then leads into parental alienation. So if we can get the access issues nipped in the bud and address it and say, look, this has got to stop. This standard practice and the status quo, where there's a winner and a loser in this scenario, are entirely different. And that they lead, and it starts snowballing, and it starts getting into parental alienation, and then you start getting into mental health and all these other things. There's so many programs out there for kids, but they're all reactive. Nobody wants to talk about preventative measures. Let's get the family home back together. Let's put moms and dads back into loving, able-bodied parents back into the child's lives, and I guarantee we'll see society flourish.
Do you know the history of 2503 and why it's a felony?
No, that'll be interesting to find out.
So, in the 70s, when all the divorces, nobody used to divorce before the 70s. It was really rare.
Right.
You know, you
That's
used
right.
to see a lot of people stayed together even though they didn't like each other.
Right.
So as the divorce rates went up, you know, what happens were these parents were picking up their children while daddy was away or mommy was away, and they would go to another state or another city or another county, and they would file for a divorce. So it was called child snatching at the time.
That's right.
They would snatch the child up, take him over to California, and then they would file for a divorce over there. And dad is over here, doesn't know where his child is. And when he wants to go back and be in his child's life, he has to go all the way to California and then has to fight the system over there. So they made it a felony to remove because when you remove a child from that state, that the city, the county, the state, and cross state lines, and then you cross international lines, right? It's a
Jurisdiction nightmare.
It's a jurisdiction nightmare.
I believe it,
You see
yeah.
these parents that they pick up, and that's why a lot of border towns do interference with child custody. Is because once they go over into Mexico, you have to get the feds involved.
That's international law now.
Right.
That becomes,
Not just that, but you got to get the FBI to go and investigate. And so it's a jurisdiction nightmare. So they came up with the UCCJEA, Universal Child Custody Jurisdiction Enforcement Act. And that kind of just told everybody, hey, this is when you're going to have jurisdiction. You're going to have jurisdiction up to 6 months in that state. You can't go anywhere. You can't file a divorce. You can't take the children anywhere until you file for your divorce in that county, right? They wanted to limit the child snatching, right? So they did. But the reason it was a felony was, I think at the time it was a 3rd-degree felony.
okay.
And they made it a felony because if they didn't have it a felony, if it was a misdemeanor, then only the local cops had jurisdiction. And local cops can't go outside the state of Texas or outside their jurisdiction to go hunt for a child. So they kept it as a felony because now we can call in the marshals, we can call in the FBI when it gets to that point. So that's why it's a felony. With a misdemeanor, you can't do that. Also, with a felony, you're able to, like Webb County likes to say, they like to kick down doors when they think that the child is in danger, that's going to be trafficked over into Mexico. Right? So with a felony warrant, you know, they can have a SWAT team come down, bring down the doors, or whatever they want with that discretion. So that's the history of why it's a felony. That's the history why we want it to stay a felony. Because right now, if my child is taken over to New York and paperwork is filed over there, and I'm sure Claudia, you know, knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a huge issue. And it's already hard enough in our area than to make it 2 states. And we're fighting court battles in both states.
Right. Attorneys in both states, litigation in both states, multiple appointments, the charges start racking up, and most parents at that point give up. They just can't do it. They can't emotionally. I mean, it's exhausting, but financially as well, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, the hardship involved. You see why parents just like they can't do it.
They throw in the towel.
So this 2503 seems to me that for when we put 2503 here in Texas, it's like someone had the foresight of saying, hey, this is going to protect parents and this needs to be put in. But it seemed like, and I'm sure we've heard this before, is when laws and bills are passed, this was probably stuck in there with 10,000 pages, one single space, 10,000 pages both front and back, and say, let me slip this in, and you know, we'll go ahead and just put it on in there, but of course no one's gonna be able to see it. But then when you came across it, what was that like when you came across and saw, like?
To me, I mean, it's it's an easy thing for me to read, and those that know me know that I preach legislative intent is how the law is written. In my journey, I came across that many times. I kept seeing it. Well, legislative intent is how the law is written, and if you break that down, that means word for word, whatever it says goes. It's not open for an opinion. It's not open for your interpretation. It is plain text, plain English, how it's written. So we've had law enforcement officers say, well, this only applies to the non-custodial. So you go back, legislative intent is how the law is written. The law says any person. Doesn't say custodial, doesn't say non-custodial, doesn't say grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt. You know, it doesn't mention any of that. The law says any persons, knowing that the retention in violation of a court order, temporary order, or judgment.
I'm reading it right now, and I agree with you. I have actually 2503 from the Texas Penal Code, and nowhere does it say
Applies just to custodial.
custodial. It says any person.
So when you get into missing child, another thing they like to throw at you is, well, a parent can kidnap their child. Yes, they can. 99.8 or 9% of the kidnappings are done by the immediate family. Okay,
Yes.
all
Yes.
the 1980s videos of these little ice cream vans coming and a guy just grabbing up a child and taking it, right?
Yeah, I remember
I'm sure it happens, but it doesn't happen as people think. The kidnappings come from the immediate family, whether it's a grandma or another mom or a dad. All these Amber Alerts are all mom and dads.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, and why does it happen that way? Because there's a lack of consequences. There's a lack of accountability when violating orders. So if laws like Texas 2503 were upheld and enforced and educated, right? If an officer went onto a premise and said, look, you can't keep retaining the child. It's dad's possession every time. It's a state jail felony, and you're going to be in a hot water, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you keep doing this kind of behavior. If that conversation were to happen on somebody on the exchange day, I guarantee you, a lot of the arguments and everything would dissipate.
Well, I'll tell you right now, that that has happened with one of our members in Amarillo. And our member showed up, and the police actually told the mother, you know, if you don't turn over, we can file a felony offense. And the mother right away did it. And it's on our YouTube channel.
It's that simple. It's
Yeah.
that simple. If that conversation were to happen from frontline law enforcement and the status quo were to change and the standard message was you're going to get a lot of trouble if you don't follow the court order. And 2503, I mean, it's a state jail felony. If people knew that, they were educated about that, there was actually some sort of level of accountability and consequences for their actions for this kind of behavior, it would never happen in the first place. And we wouldn't have all the problems that go with it. Parental alienation, child abuse, all these other things that spin off of it.
So let me flip it on the other side of that Amber Alert. And we've already talked about mental, emotional, not just on the parent or on the child, but also on the parent. That parent, because I don't understand why any parent would just kidnap their child just to beat them, right? That just logically does not make any sense. Obviously, that parent loved that child so much that they risked a lot to take that child for whatever reason they believe.
And they saw no alternative but
Right.
to,
And,
okay.
and what about if these are drastic measures from these parents that have no confidence in the judicial system, that they said, I'm just going to pick up that child and I'm going to run for it? I'm not making excuses for them, I'm not saying, but what if we change that mentality and we said, why did you do that? I would love to sit down with 5 or 10 parents that have been accused or been arrested under an Amber Alert. They alerted the whole state at 3 a.m. in the morning looking for a little child that they know that they were taken by their parents. And law enforcement will tell you, well, the parent can't kidnap the child. They can. Interference with child custody. And when you look up missing child law, Code of Criminal Procedure 63.001 and 63.009 law enforcement requirements when taking a missing child report, it all says the same. It doesn't say non-custodial, it doesn't say custodial, it doesn't say any of this. It says when the whereabouts are unknown to the child's legal custodian. Now, if I'm a joint managing, a non-custodial parent, I still have rights to my child. She just gets to designate where the child lives, right? But other than that, I can still make medical decisions. I can still make religious. I can still parent. So if I don't know where my child is, and that's the bad thing that I have an issue with, is that sometimes they treat non-custodials as they're the criminals.
Less than.
Less than.
Yes.
Custodial parents are, well, you're the non-custodial parent. No.
You must have done something wrong.
Right. And
Right.
and statistically, and even on the Texas Attorney General's website, it'll tell you that 90% of non-custodial parents are men. Now, we live in a world where everyone wants transparency, everybody wants equality, and yet the state of Texas goes and puts that on their website. 90% is far from, equal.
Right. So I want to throw into what you're saying. So from what I understand, 2503, even though this has been used a lot, especially when having access to your child, because you are behind on child support, I am not going to allow you to see your child. 2503 has nothing to do with child support.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
No.
They're two, from what I understand, what you're saying, they're two separate
Two separate
entities
things.
that are completely different. So that can't be, child support cannot be used.
No. And it's the other way around as well.
Oh,
I can't deny child support because you're not turning the child over.
That's right.
So it works both ways. But then again, they're only worried about the child support. And
That's not everywhere, though. That's not every state. Some states address it with 50-50 shared parenting, and they take that out of the equation, and they have an equal level playing field. And we're seeing a lot of success in those states. Texas is behind the curve. It's
Unfortunately, yes, yes it is, yes
So-
it is.
But and I don't understand why, because to me it's really easy. But I can understand where I believe you have to think that family law industry is a $50-60 billion industry, right?
That's
And
your
so
answer. That's
right.
your answer.
So the state of Texas, and I was harping on this a little earlier, gets federal grant money. They get those federal grant monies, and then the state of Texas gives them to other organizations or for research. So this one right here is the Child and Family Research Partnership out of the University of Texas at Austin. And this is literature that the Attorney General gives to their domestic relations office.
Yes.
So they actually give this, and we found this,
During our journey.
yeah, this flyer during our journey. So we started doing research into this Child and Family Research Partnership out of the University of Texas. Dads make a big difference. 80% less likely to spend in jail. 75% less likely to have teen birth. 45% less likely to repeat a grade. 60% less likely to be suspended or expelled from school. 2 times as likely to go to college and find a stable employment after high school.
Dad's in the child's life.
Right.
When dad is
In
in.
the child, that means an established, consistent relationship
Correct.
with the child.
Now we're going to go a step further because this shouldn't only be just dads. Even though the research is based on this, we believe as a group, 2503, that it needs to happen to dads and moms. Because we have moms that have been excluded. And it's not fair. We understand it's more of a male and a dad issue, but we also know that we must fight for moms. If we're going to advocate for dads, we're going to advocate for mothers as well.
If we were gender specific in our fight, we'd be guilty of the very same thing that we're trying to fight.
That is
Right.
true. I
So, the state, and this is where my issue lies with the state. You have spent federal dollars, and now you have given it for research,
agree. Right.
right? So why don't you use this research to interject into the family code and legislate new laws to promote these fathers? But instead, we're going to give you this literature here and tell you, oh, we want dad involvement, but we're not gonna help you see your child.
We're not gonna enforce what the law already states.
we have all our research, we have laws, but we're just gonna overlook that. Y'all just take it back to civil court.
The very same research they funded.
Right.
Right. So they've done the research, they have it, they have the results are in, but we're gonna ignore our own research that we bought and paid for, and we're just gonna keep going with the standard thing, because we make a lot of money off of it. We make
Right.
a lot of money.
So it's, but if you know anything about child support, Title 4D from the, on the federal level allows states to collect monies to collect child support.
Correct, yes.
So the state of Texas, $12.32 on every dollar that they use to collect child support. Right.
This law is almost 50 years old. Almost 50 years old. Think about what's happened in 50 years of our time, in our lifetime.
So you think, I mean, we didn't have cell phones 50 years ago. Now we have cell phones that tell us everything. But
Right.
yet they don't want to address this law and update it because there's so much money coming in. If you're getting, who wouldn't want $12.32 on the dollar? I mean, that's just a no-brainer. So they're breaking up families. They're encouraging families to fight and encouraging mom and dad to go either way because attorneys win, and then we collect child support. That's why we'll hold up the court order for child support, but y'all can figure it out until for the best interest of the child on access and visitation.
Right.
Parents' constitutional rights are continually being violated by their own state. And their children are not wards of the state, but yet they're being used to get money from the federal government and for profit. So this right here, this is where the problem lays, and nobody wants to address it.
You would think that's a conflict of interest, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
It's a huge deal, and we'd like to get it addressed, but it just seems when you're in the political arena in Austin, everybody's rubbing elbows, so you have to play the political.
Sure. Absolutely.
you have to learn how to speak their language.
Yes.
You have to learn how to understand how it works, how their system works.
Well, there's a reason why Derek is my communications guy. And I'm on my very best behavior today. But
He is. He's doing really well today.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
And so, No, we're working on legislation, and if Derek wants to hit on what we're doing, and before we do that, I'd just like to tell you that anybody that knows me, and I say this, I don't say it like I normally say it, but parents need to stop complaining about it and wanting sympathy and sulk in their emotions, and they need to, I guess they need to channel their anger and their emotions, and they need to find something and fight for it. I was in my emotions when all this happened, and I was angry, and I was ready with my pitchfork, and I was ready to fight. And so now we had to go into the political arena, and we had to learn how to talk to these politicians to be able to, for them to hear us. And so these parents, I always tell our members and our parents, don't go on Facebook and cry about it. I have a problem, you have a problem, you have a problem, you have a problem. Okay, I don't want to watch Jerry Springer and hear Jerry Springer every day, right? I want to see you email a legislator. I want to see you write a senator. I want to see you go up and make a meeting with the police chief and ask him why he's not enforcing these laws. Ask your senator, why is this on the books and nobody in your area that you represent is enforcing this? Using it that way is going to get you more answers than 3 likes and 15 comments saying, I'm praying for you.
Yes.
I'm praying for you. And one of the comments I hate the most on Facebook is, you know, George, when they grow up, they're going to see what that other parent did. And they're going to love you more, and they're going to despise. First of all, you always hear it from the person that's younger from you, right? That doesn't have children or whatever, right? And they've never been to school for psychology. They've never done any research. It's almost like when a loved one dies and the other one says, she was a good woman, and you're like, you didn't even know her, like,
Right.
So, my advice to parents, is to reach out to your legislators, because that's what we've done, and we've consistently done. And so Derek will go in and talk about the legislation we've done.
Well, I kind of piggyback on what George said. So it's a process, and a lot of these parents, it's okay to vent, it's okay to be emotional, it's okay to be raw and into your feelings. That's okay, but we want to channel that. We want to talk about it, and we want to teach you how to use it. We want to educate you on the process. We want you guys to be able to get some sort of traction to do something. A lot of parents get lost in the feelings, and they don't know what else to do. They're trapped in their personal struggle. When I first met George, I was one of those parents, and I don't want to share too much of my personal story, and I don't get into the details, because my story is your story. It's her story. It's his story. It's the same. Now there's different levels, right? There's different extremes and intensities, but worldwide we share that same cause. That same story happens over and over and over again. But when I first met George, it was a few months after he kind of initiated the whole 2503 and the process. And, I actually met him at the courthouse. And I had a court date that day for my own personal case. And I was lost in thought, and I was kind of thinking on process. And for me as an individual, I've always been one to do, what's my next steps? What do I have to do next? And, maybe God sent him to me and put him in my life, or maybe there was a greater power. And I met him in the hallway, and he's like, hey, you have anybody here with you, or what's going on? And so I told him a little bit about what was going on. Total stranger, had never, met him before. And he actually sat in on my case. So I saw a passionate guy. Now he comes off sometimes abrasive at times and rebellious. And that's one of the things I admire and respect about him as an individual.
Did you tell him I fell asleep in here? I was there, but I was asleep.
But I saw a passion in this man, right? And maybe it stemmed from his own personal struggles, as most cases do, right? But I decided to give him the opportunity and the chance to say, okay, we have something. I saw something in him. Probably he doesn't even see in himself. And
so, real quick, so on that note, what I also tell parents is that if we fight our struggles individually, we're never going to make it out of this hole.
Absolutely.
Right? He's gonna have his problems with his attorney, he goes that way. Me and my attorney go this way, he goes with his attorney, and we all this, right? We all come together, right? And we go to these legislators, these politicians, and we tell them, hey, we don't want our rights violated.
Right.
You know, you are our voice, you are elected officials. Now what we're doing is when we come together and we take down the system, it's gonna rain on everybody that's going through this.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people it's power in numbers. You know, we come together and we need to push this issue together.
Right.
Quit coming onto Facebook and saying, who can help me find a lawyer? Because that doesn't do anything. I mean, yeah, we'll help you find a lawyer or whatever. Join the fight.
Yeah. Stop the animosity and resentment on the gender side too. I mean,
Right. Quit.
It impacts men. There's a higher percentage of men impacted. This is not solely a man issue. Does it impact us the majority of the time? Absolutely.
And Claudia will even tell you, you know, and Claudia's gotten some backlash on her. You know, she's fighting just as hard as we are.
I think twice as hard.
And you're right. And men are coming back. Well, why are you helping that woman? You know, this is a men's group, and no, it's not. Right?
There's even a level of paranoia there that, hey, why do we have ladies in this group?
they're spies.
Right.
They're spies.
There's some sort of double agent or something.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's just mind blowing that there's so much focus and energy on woman hating and man hating that if these people were just to realize to come together and unite in their fight, that we'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
But the bickering.
The objective is the child,
Right.
the best interest of the child, and that's what we wanna be a part of.
It may be too late for us, but as parents, we're fighting for the next generation. We are fighting and trying to make it better for our children so they don't have to do this. They don't have to live this.
So the statistics now are 60% of all marriages are ended in divorce. 60%.
That's actually correct, yes.
Right? So my son has a 60%, and he's a male. So if I don't fix this now for him, he's going to be going through this problem when that statistic is even higher.
Absolutely.
Right? Same thing. You know, she has a son. Is he going to go through it as well?
And I've explained that this is no longer just about my child.
Right.
It's not. This goes way beyond that.
And I think you see grandmothers coming on saying, you know, and they were parents, they were mothers at one time.
Yes.
You know, but you see grandparents coming in saying, hey, look, I don't like how my son is being treated. You know, not to say that maybe she withheld before then, I don't know. But, you know, eventually you're going to have a boy or a girl. And
Right.
either way, it's going to affect you some way other.
Well, there's a level of empowerment there, right? We celebrate single mothers, but we often forget about single fathers. And that's kind of the stigma in society that, oh, yay, you know, the single mom, you did it all on your own. But we never address the elephant in the room and how many successful single fathers are raising their children. So a single mother can raise a son, okay? They can raise a successful son. But what's going to happen to that son if he becomes a father? He's going to be exposed to the very same system in which, and what's happening? It's going to repeat itself.
And not only that, but you have to think that the terminology single mom does not exist if there's a father actively trying to be in his child's life.
No bigger argument than the whole deadbeat dad.
Right.
I mean, we need to take that out of the equation altogether. There is no such thing.
That's a slur to every male
Yes.
that has children. You're a deadbeat dad.
If that
No.
dad's going to court and fighting for his child, there's no way, shape, or form that he is a deadbeat. If he's fighting for his child and for his God-given right to raise that child in any way, shape, or form, if he's shedding tears, if he's waking up crying, if he's just fighting, you know, deadbeat dad doesn't exist. We gotta get past that.
There's no logic in their arguments.
No.
And
It's
so
frustrating.
we try to. We do a lot of education, and the bottom line is, you know, I think we're as small as our group is, we pack a punch. We're Mighty Mouse right now. We've been able to move mountains. We've seen other groups that have larger followings, but our group, it's a working group. We encourage. We give homework assignments. We ask you to email. We ask you to do research. We don't want you to just come in here, and we're not your support group. You know, if you want to go and cry on someone's shoulders, we ask that you.
There are support groups for that.
Right.
Yes.
But when you join our group, come in expecting to do work to advocate and to break, you know, to go after that objective and clear that objective so it reigns, you know,
Make progress.
yeah,
It's
so,
beneficial for all
so,
of us.
so it's beneficial for all of us instead of our own single fight.
So once a person has done, and this is okay, once they've done their therapy, they've done their soul searching, now they're ready to, hey, I need to fight for my child's relationship. Your agency, 2503, is an agency that they can find that guidance, find that direction to say, hey, we're ready to work, we're actually ready to put this on track, we're ready to get this thing rolling. This is actual work, this is not a therapy session, this is not, we have that, we have that available for you guys, there is availability for that.
You have parents that are emotionally checked out, and I get it.
Yes,
And so they want help. Find me an attorney, and I'm gonna give him all my money, I'm gonna go work extra, and he's gonna handle everything for me. And
Yes.
they're emotionally just checked out, right? But they don't know how bad the system is. They don't know how bad and how deep and how far they're gonna get going that route. So what we do is we educate the parents, and it's all dependent on you. How bad do you want to see your child? How bad are you going to want to learn? How bad are you going to do it? And some people come in emotionally charged. Oh, I'm ready, and I'm going to do this for you guys, and I'm going to knock down some doors. You want me to advocate? You want me to do this? I'll do it. And a month later, they fizzled out and they're gone.
In advocacy, you have to be able to pace yourself. It's very passionate, it's very emotional, and as any advocates, you have to be able to pace yourself. And you're in a long fight. But yes, we do help. We do help parents. We take all comers. We've helped other states, other countries. We crosstalk. We network. We may not be a support group, but we will help you. We'll put a process to things, and we'll help you get started.
Well, this has been a very interesting conversation. 2503 is something that I definitely would like to continue to touch base upon and for future podcasts. And so if someone wants to find you, where could they find you? What would be the best place to contact 2503?
We're on every social media platform. We have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter account, emails. We're starting up a website. Right now, Facebook gets the most traction, so you guys reach out to us there, message us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, and we'll touch base and give you some more information.
And not just that, but our YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Our YouTube channel is a wealth of knowledge. We've had some educational stuff on there that parents can, watch on their own time on their drive into work, just like listening to podcasts. YouTube channel Texas 25.03. You can look at all of our stuff. You can ask us questions on there as well.
Okay, all right.
And tomorrow starts you got COVID, you got denials, and it's gonna be a bad season for denials.
Yes.
So it's gonna be ugly. It's ugly season.
All right, Derek, George, Claudia, Gabe, I do appreciate you guys coming on this podcast and talking about 2503, something that just blew my mind when I heard about it through Gabriel, and he just opened my mind. I definitely believe that this is definitely something to start with that a lot of dads are looking for and a lot of parents, mom and dads are looking for. So I want to thank you guys again for coming on, and I appreciate it. I look forward to the next one.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's going to take more individuals like yourself to get the word out, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Allow me 56 minutes, 23 seconds. That was fantastic. That was
We still got a lot
awesome.
more though.
I know, that was awesome.
We didn't even touch on legislation or processes or anything.
I know, right? I wanted to do that. So, you guys, man, that's awesome. I'm inspired. Because, again, you guys know I'm a parenting program. I'm the lead mentor coordinator. Once they go through our parenting program for 15 weeks about what fatherhood is from conception to death, then they have an opportunity to go into our mentor program, which when I took over the mentor program, I said, they volunteer both in-house to the community, but what is one thing that they need to do is they need to have this voice. And dawned on me, podcast. Why don't we do a podcast? Why don't I just have these guys come in and talk about whatever is on their mind? And so that's what we've been doing. And so, but I also want to help, as you touch base, and we can touch about this later, is unfortunately and I really believe by no fault of their own, dads, they don't know how to be dads.
They're targeted.
They don't know how to support other dads.
Oh, we're
They
horrible
have,
at it.
they have this mentality of belief that a real man does it on his own. A real man will take care of his own problems. And when I asked this one question, so how's that working for you? Their emotions just come out and say, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted of doing this on my own. I feel alienated. I feel alone. The whole world is against me. And when I ask, what is the one thing that you want? I want that relation with my child. I just want my child. I want to hold my child. I want to, how are you doing? What's your favorite color? And so, helping these gentlemen to understand, like, how can they rebuild that motivation, that determination and the love and the life, a life of being a dad. There's everything is against me. And when I looked for that little light and found, Gabriel said, hey, you ever heard about 2503? 2503? What the heck is that? It was like a huge light bulb went in, like, these dads need to know this information. And the years that I've been doing this for 8 years, in my 8 years of doing this, regardless of the father's road that he's taken, I've never had a dad say, I don't want to support my child. I don't want that relationship with my child. It's unfortunate when these rights are terminated, it's because you see the father gave up all hope. I have nothing left.
So, and I had this conversation the other day. So you have some of us that were, you know, I'm 40 years old, but, you know, I was brought up by my grandfather, and hard work was instilled in me, you know,
Right.
to, you know, never give up. And that's probably one of my biggest attributes and one of my biggest downfalls is that I don't give up when I should give up. And
I'd say you're hard-headed, but yeah.
well, you know, that's the thing. Men have been taught,
Yeah.
you know, the machismo, you know, to
You don't wear your emotions on your sleeve.
right. You
Right.
don't.
Or we're actually ridiculed if we do.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not socially acceptable, and I know I've told you that before.
Still to this day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, men, it's not okay for men to cry. It's not okay for men to suffer.
They're told to man up.
Yeah.
That's
they're
why
told-
it
and,
exists. Yes.
and produce, and we want to. We want to be a part of our children's lives, but that's why we've created this, is so we can teach others, not just men but also women, not to give up and to, you know, keep
Right.
with the process. Now, we've started to notice that our group has a lot more women
Yes.
than men, and the only thing we can contribute that to is that
The conclusion is that they're men are less in their emotions, right?
Yeah, women are more emotionally involved, so they're more detailed, you know.
They network, they talk,
Yeah.
they
In fact, a lot of them are girlfriends that say, hey, my
Yeah, my
husband,
boyfriend's, my
I'm doing this for my
boyfriend's baby mama.
I'll do Dave up and the girlfriend's in it now.
And you know why? I mean, and quite honestly, it stems from fear. These men are they're fearful of speaking up because, oh, if I do something wrong or say something wrong, and if I gotta go to court again, and my ex is gonna use it against me, and I gotta be a
Yes.
Johnny on the spot. I gotta be such a
I'm
good
gonna go
boy.
back to jail. They're gonna
Yes.
send me to prison.
Your
I'm gonna
livelihood
lose my
should be
life.
great.
I'm
Yes.
gonna lose my license. I'm gonna lose. So it's this fear factor of being a dad now comes at a great cost of fear.
Oh, and it's rightfully so.
And
Rightfully
it's killing their relationship now, so the girlfriend's just like, dude, I
So,
can fix this, and
I'm
then they reach out.
I'm gonna go on a limb. This is kind of sidestepping, and this is honestly what I've observed. There are forces out there that want to take over our society, however they define that. And one of the biggest ways to accomplish it, you have to get rid of a certain population. And that population is loving, nurturing dads. You want to take control over society, you have to get rid of dads first. And that's what I see overall in general is they're getting rid of loving, nurturing dads, they're feminizing men, they're doing all this stuff to get rid of the identity of what fatherhood is, what being a loving, emotional, nurturing man is. and they're replacing it with superficial things.
And I can entertain that, but why would a man allow that to happen? So you have a male governor, a male lieutenant governor, you have a lot of legislators, you have a lot of male police officers, you have a lot of male attorneys. And that's what I don't understand, is why would you let that happen?
Let me touch on that. They are on the winning side. They're on the profitable side, and they're capitalizing on it. And a lot of these people that don't understand the justice system or say, hey, just go to court, you'll have your day, you'll have your due process, have never been through the judicial system. They have never seen it let them down. Let me.
Correct? I agree.
7 years, 5 attorneys, no criminal record, not even a speeding ticket in 20 years. And yet I'm having to fight for my children endlessly, tirelessly. What does that tell you? I wasn't heard in court. My due process was violated. And this is somebody that doesn't have the odds stacked against them. Imagine a father that made a mistake early on, or has a record, or
Even a misdemeanor.
right, the one thing, right?
Right.
And they're gonna harp on it. They're gonna capitalize on it.
Yes.
Well, he got a DWI. You know, yeah, Your Honor, when I was 21, yeah, absolutely. And the odds are already stacked against them.
Well, what about fathers that are emotionally and mentally wrecked, so they turn to either substance abuse or alcohol, you know,
Correct.
to
They
cope,
medicate it,
to
they
medicate.
The self-medicating
Right.
is the medication portion, right? It's how they treat the symptoms, but it's by design. They're broken down financially, emotionally, physically, and they're battered and whipped into submission. Like, just pay like a good boy. Keep paying your child support. Keep working, and it's okay if you have or don't have a relationship with the child. Nothing can be further from the truth. If you want to empower men, and you want society to come back as a whole, we have to start getting the shared parenting and fathers back into the child's life. It takes a village. It really does. It's going to
Yes.
take mothers and fathers, and it's going to take you both created that child out of love, right? That child is here today, and both of you obviously care because both of you are fighting. Now, regardless of our relationship, whether we can get along successfully or not, we owe that child, and we have to do the best possible we can. But when the odds are stacked up against us from the get-go, it is extremely hard, and it's double hard for men, and
Right.
especially in today's world.
And I can't figure out why it's so hard for them to understand that when a man wants to be in his child's life, why does he have to jump through $100,000 in legal fees?
Oh, they'll giggle about it. In my own, own personal experience, Your Honor, I'm begging. For instance, for an example, I wanted to get my children baptized. Okay, I was told I could not have Sundays to do the CCD and put them through the Catholic program and get them baptized and go through the whole process. No, you can go to Mass later on. It's impossible. There's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do. So there I am begging the judge, no criminal record, mind you, no negatives, no negative check marks in my boxes whatsoever. And I'm begging a judge who's never met my children, who doesn't know me, Adam from Eve, and is telling me that I can't. The most important thing in this world, my children, our children, right? And I'm told I can't. Why?
Isn't there something called the First Amendment? I could have sworn we had something about the First Amendment.
Freedom of religion.
I could have sworn.
Don't worry about it.
It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
But it comes back to what you said, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share the truth that I have observed. Fatherhood has turned into how can we make profit and money
Absolutely.
out of fatherhood.
Absolutely.
If we cannot make money out of being a dad, being a mom, how can we create an environment, a system that will continue to feed that and evolve over time where we can start making money off of that?
And again, you go back to the Texas Attorney General, right? And the money they made $4 billion in child support collection last year. Not $4 billion give to mom. That's $4 million on top of collecting child support, because the state's going to get their money off of the interest and everything else. But so the state made $4 billion, and you go back and you hear this is in the best interest of the children. you know, he needs to provide for his children. They want me to provide, but they don't want me to see or have a relationship with my child.
Right. It's,
You know,
you'd almost think it's in their best interest because they're gonna profit off of it.
right. And Ken Paxton has said, you know, that he's very proud of his child support agency and that they have done a great job. And, you know, we're
Isn't that
gonna,
despicable?
so
Isn't that-
they'll lock you up, they'll throw you in jail for not paying your child support, and then they won't clear those arrearages. You still owe them when you get back out. So now you're another 3 or 6 months late because you went to jail.
They're-
So how are you gonna get out from underneath it?
They're excited you do not have a relationship with your child. It's horrible.
Like I said, we don't advocate just for fathers, we advocate for mothers as well. You know, and Claudia is one of the mothers that, she's very involved, she's become an advocate for parental alienation. And we all have our different little, assignments within the group. Legislation, I'm, I guess, on top of everything, and, Claudia does the PA portion. We have other team members that aren't here
We have a
today.
phenomenal team. We have an amazing team, and I'll let you in on a little secret. The majority of our group and our admins and our moderators are ladies, are females.
Yeah.
They're well spoken, they're articulate, they're well versed, they're subject matter experts, and they can grab the attention of a room, and they are phenomenal. They're excellent at what they do, and they have never once made this about gender. They fight for men just as hard as they fight for women. They're fighting for all parents.
Yeah, equality.
Yes.
I mean, the child belongs to both parents, it just doesn't belong to one, unless there has been due process and they have found that it's not in the best interest.
Right.
But when you have that court order and it already says, you see this child on this date, and that other parent, that's not in the best interest. So, I mean,
We have groups in almost every major city throughout Texas, and we're expanding daily. We have groups just like us, made of fathers and mothers, that are having access issues, that are having custodialship issues, interference with child custody. I mean, you name it, right? There's fractions of our group, as small as we are, that center themselves in each municipality in geographical areas, right? And we teach them the process. We teach them the ropes. We say, here's the materials, here's the education pieces, run with it, go. And they have been extremely successful in talking to their legislators, extremely successful in talking to law enforcement. And it's not all law enforcement, all DAs are bad. We have some huge supporters that understand the message. And some of them, believe it or not, have personally gone through these issues, or have a family member that's personally going through these issues, right? That their brother or whatnot cannot have access to their children. And they admire, respect, and they understand. They come from a point of understanding. So, you know, in just a short amount of time that we've been around, we've grown leaps and bounds, and I'm nothing but hopeful that we will continue to grow. Are we rebellious? Absolutely. Do we?
we're not your normal suit and tie kind of guys.
We can
You
do that
tell.
too, though. We can do that too. We can do suit and
We
tie
don't pull them off
sometimes.
very well, but I don't
Yeah.
even know if my suit and tie fits anymore.
After COVID and the quarantine, I'm pretty sure it doesn't wear suits fit as the way
Let's
they
just say
should.
if you have an objective and you need a lot of parents behind you,
Mhm.
this group will definitely do that.
We have amazing parents too. We really do.
They've shown that.
And the legislators, you know, there's not anybody in Bear County that has told us no. Everybody.
I think they're afraid to. I think they're afraid
Well,
to.
we were told last week that we were a good, very good. What was it say? How did they say it?
Right.
What did they say about our group last week? Sheriff Salazar.
Oh, he was, I forgot what he said.
He
The way
said,
he said it, he goes, this is a really good, they could, I guess, be on your.
Nerves.
Good. You can be on your good side, but you don't want them on your bad side. And then he goes, especially this guy, because, you know, and then it was kind of funny because I'm the more flamboyant. I got a more
Vocal?
colorful vocabulary than most, and I try to
At times.
oppressive.
Have to wrangle him back in.
Yeah.
And he has a beautiful message, but sometimes he has struggles conveying that message.
Or I
So-
say it with colorful language.
Yes.
And to me, it's real simple, and I don't deal with. I guess in the fire department, when we were told to do something, we had to do it quickly, or things
Right.
wouldn't go well, right?
Right.
So I usually give people 3 chances. You know, one, hey man, I need you to do this. Can you do it for me? Yeah, okay. All right, second, hey man, you told me you were gonna do this. Can you do it for me still? Yep. And the third time, it's like, hey dude, this is the third time I told you. And that's how I do all my emails. You know, if I have to get on you on a third time, it's just like my kids. You know, I'm not here to keep repeating myself.
Right.
And it's the same thing with legislators. And Claudia will tell you that, you know, I'll get on my local politicians. Hey man, I'm a constituent. I've emailed you 3 times. Why haven't you responded?
Right.
I've given you enough time. It's not like I'm asking you to do it every day, but I've given you enough time. Why aren't you not addressing
But
this?
us being persistent and having that attitude and that drive and the motivation has gotten us where we are today.
Right.
We've gotten this far because we are persistent.
We're passive, but yet we're aggressive when we need to be.
But you are persistent on what is already law.
Right.
You're not trying to make up a law, you're not trying to.
Absolutely.
And that's another thing is that we don't, us as parents, you know, mothers and fathers and stuff, when we're asking local politicians to follow the law, we're not doing anything illegal,
Nope.
unethical,
Nope.
or immoral. We are all within our
We're
rights as
asking you to do
parents.
your job.
Yeah, not just that, but we have rights to our children, and you not honoring those rights is harming my child
Right.
and harming my rights.
Right.
So that's what it all comes down to. Nothing immoral, nothing illegal, nothing unethical.
You mom and dad, you guys keep fighting for what's right, keep fighting for your children, and we're gonna change things for our children, so they don't have to go through this, they don't have to live through this. And it's gonna take all of us, it's gonna take everybody in solidarity and one united voice as a front to make this happen. And things don't happen at a feverish pace. We're in it for the long haul, and we have to prepare like that. But the more people we educate, the more we get this message out there, the more people we touch and are able to give them the blueprint and the process, the keys to success. It works. A lot of parents have had successful, whether it was on the criminal side or civil litigation, they've had a successful transaction, and they end up getting their children. And we have a lot of winning cases now. So what we do ask parents though is, don't fight just for you. We understand you have your personal case, that takes
Right.
priority, right? Get your children back in your life, but stay motivated and make change for your children. Keep fighting, because this isn't going to stop with just you. This isn't going to stop with you just getting access to them. You don't want your children to have to go through this.
So like, oh, I got my children, okay, guys, I'm done.
Oh, yeah. Peace out.
And a lot of
Pay
parents,
it forward, man.
a lot of parents do that. We help them so much, and then they get their children, and us that are still in the trenches, they don't continue the process. We save them a whole bunch of money by sleeping in a Holiday Inn, and not having to hire an attorney.
Well,
I'll
I'll tell you this. We have a lot of late night calls. We have a lot of 3 a.m.s, a lot of 4 a.m.s, staying up with parents and helping them out. And there's no greater feeling than when these parents turn around, they start contributing to the group, they start doing the meet and greets, they start performing the call to actions. If we ask for a rally, they're out there. He's right here. Dad's right here. He came out to our last event and the one thereafter, and that's what we're asking. It's going to take more parents and more individuals to keep doing this, and that right there is enough motivation. That's a huge success. Not only did he get his child, or is in the process of getting his child, but the next parent, and we just created another resource. So now he can talk to another dad and mom and help them out. And hey, this is what I did. This is what I had to do. This is who I contacted and called and whatnot. And it just snowballs from there. It's a beautiful feeling. When you start winning your children and everybody starts coming together, the real winners, and not to sound cliche, are our children, right?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, there's trying to plug in everywhere. Like here at the men's group, down at the shelter, it just keeps going and going and going. And that snowball's going, man. And before the group, I didn't really have a chance, man. I really did not have a chance.
And that's the thing too, is that Derek and I will tell you that we've met with a juvenile judge here in San Antonio, and while they said that like 90 to 95% of the children that are incarcerated in this juvenile detention center are all coming from single-family households, they're actually asking for mentors from the community to come and mentor these children.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're coming from single-family households, and the Attorney General is saying that 90% of non-custodial or parents, let's just go out on a limb and say that they're fatherless, right?
That's a fair assessment.
And then we go back to dads make a difference, 80% less likely to spend in jail. So that tells us one thing is that these parents or fathers or however you want to put it are not being, they're not allowed to see their children because there's no help, right? So in that case, you know, what if we go out on another limb and we say, let's start working to improve the nuclear family. Let's try to bring mom and dad together. Let's make sure visitation and access happens, and then let's see what the result happens within the juvenile detention center. Right? You're taking away the fathers, but then you're asking for the community to come help mentor the children.
How much of this is avoidable?
Right. So what if we would have let the fathers mentor their own children? They might not end up in jail. I mean, again, a lot of this is so easy for me to grasp. And I think our group has really pushed it to the limits. And here in Bexar County, I think everybody is in sync. Now we're getting the snowball rolling.
Right.
And it's great to see everybody working so hard, because a lot of people just somehow think that it's my group and it's not my group. You know, Derek plays a huge part, Claudia plays a huge part, and the other members behind the scenes, some of them don't want to be named because they're going through litigation, but we have people doing research for us that are, and I'm just conveying the research from what I'm told and whatever. He uses it for legislation, she uses it for PA. She consistently has PA meetings for mothers as a support group and educates them. We had one this week where a mother drove down from Houston, knew nothing about 2503 interference, right? She hasn't seen her child, and then we talked to her, and now she has a plan for tomorrow. When she gets denied, law enforcement's gonna get involved, and they're gonna do their thing. But again, she didn't do anything illegal, immoral, or unethical. All she wants is the time with her child as the judge has already deemed in the best interest of the child.
Well, there's tons of organizations, there's tons of nonprofit groups, there's so many great organizations that are reactive, that are out there, and just locally too, but statewide, nationwide, and there's all these programs and funding and oh yeah, we're gonna, you know, get you in there and, but how much of this, if we were just to let both parents be a parent to their child, is avoidable? So we honestly think this access issue, if we introduce both parents back into a hole in the child's life, a lot of things won't happen in the first place. And it makes sense, right? You're not adding to the problem, you're providing a solution, but in hindsight, how much of that is profitable? All the grant funding, the federal funding, the state, everybody's making a buck, cash for kids, but we're not attacking the problem, we're not addressing the issue. And the issue is, let's put dads back into kids' lives. Let's do it. Let's put both parents and do what's really in the best interest of the child and include both. Why don't they? Because there's money to be made. That's exactly it.
It always comes back to, no matter where you slice it or dice it, it comes back to it's about.
And I mean, we can talk about legislation. And if you want to do other podcasts and stuff, we can do legislation.
Yeah.
We can PA. We can do, and we can have a little blueprint, maybe a bullet point agenda, and we'll kind of stay on topic for your
Yes,
show.
I would definitely love that.
And,
I
if
truly believe this cannot be just a one-time podcast.
And we'd like to help your group too. I mean, any way we can. If you want us to talk to dads or give them some hope or give them a share of personal.
I definitely would like that. I think that needs to happen, you know, once.
I think also, to help with your issue on dads not knowing what to do, maybe a little role playing.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Because it's very intimidating, to me it was, to tell an officer, this is 2503. Then they tell, no, it's not, and I leave.
And that's part of the process.
And then I learned that I guess it is.
Right.
I like to
Right.
speak with your supervisor.
Right.
You have to be calm but assertive.
Right.
Right.
Because you know your rights.
Business-like, professional,
Yeah.
able to convey your message. We promote safety and recording for everybody's safety, right? And well, this is for my safety, and not in your face like, oh, I got you.
Right.
Just a simple, it's on record. Hey, I'm recording this conversation. I just wanted to let you know. Here's my hard copy of my orders. I'm here today to exercise my discretionary time. And just in case you didn't know, I become the custodial parent at 6 p.m. and it's now 6:30. I'm here where the judge told me to be. That address is correct, right? I would like an offense report if we can't get the child for today.
You said something that caught my eye, caught my ear. At 6 p.m., I become the custodial
Yeah.
parent.
You
Absolutely.
do.
You do.
You're not the non-custodial anymore, they are, because that's your custodial time.
See, that, I did not know that. That
So
is the-
look up, child custody determination. So go to Google, put Texas Family Code, child custody determination.
Excuse me, I'm gonna use the facilities. It's not like monster.
Child,
Custody determination.
Let me take this out, I'm gonna show you something now. Where we get our pictures of.
And it
Oh,
should take you.
I don't have internet.
What?
I don't have internet.
Child custody determination?
Child custody determination, Texas Family Code.
You have internet access?
Mm-hmm.
You need the code? We got the code.
Yeah, it's odd mint 338.
What's the,
And child custody,
75. Thank you, 75.
152.102, is that it? No.
Nature 75 dash 5G or
Oh, 5G.
5G?
Uh-huh. And it's, ODD
Mint.
mint.
MINT?
Mm-hmm. 338. Oh,